Welcome to Today in Payments. I'm your host, Patty Murphy, with your daily dose of payments notes. Well, it seems the shifting power paradigm in Washington is leaving its mark in the payment space. A resolution authored by Senator Pete Ricketts, a Nebraska Republican, has been put before the Senate. That resolution would 86 the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau ruling giving the Bureau oversight authority for non-banks offering P2P digital payment apps. Large financial institutions offering such apps are already subject to the Consumer Watchdog Agency's rules and oversight. An identical resolution was introduced in the House of Representatives by Congressman Mike Flood, also a Republican from Nebraska. The rule in question would apply to any big tech company processing at least 50 million P2P digital payment transactions a year. Those firms would be subject to oversight by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB for short. In other words, if they were accused of violating consumer protection laws, they would have to answer to the CFPB. In announcing the rule, the CFPB estimated that the most widely used apps covered by the rule collectively processed over 13 billion P2P transactions a year. Here's the reasoning behind the rule. Back in 2010, the folks writing the Dodd-Frank Act thought it would be a good idea to centralize the oversight of large organizations that were involved in consumer financial services. So they created the CFPB to do that. The reasoning seemed to be that there were about a half dozen regulatory agencies with their fingers in the pie, so to speak, and there wasn't a lot of coordination around the regulation and or oversight of these consumer financial services companies. The feeling was that the lack of focus on oversight of large consumer financial services providers was a contributing factor to the 2008 financial crisis. In other words, inconsistent or lack of enforcement of consumer protection laws led to a lot of the problems that created the financial crisis. Since then, however, big tech has gotten into the scene with payment apps like Venmo and Cash App that compete against bank-owned apps like Zelle. And more recently, X, the social media platform previously known as Twitter, announced that it was getting into the business as well. In January, X announced a deal with Visa that would allow X users to move funds between their traditional bank accounts and their X digital wallets to make P2P payments in real time. No start date is yet to be announced for X payments, however. The CFPB rule had been hotly contested. A pair of associations representing big tech, TechNet and the Financial Technology Association, filed a lawsuit against the Bureau in January, arguing that it had overstepped its authority by adopting the rule. At about the same time, President Trump fired Rohit Chopra, the CFPB's director, and much of the Bureau's work was left in limbo. In a press release issued by Senator Ricketts' office, Penny Lee, president of the Financial Technology Association, described the rule as, quote, deeply flawed, and asserted that, quote, it failed to identify specific risks to consumers, end quote. Carl Holzhauser, EVP of TechNet, made similar assertions. Well, the resolution is currently on the calendar for a vote before the full Senate, although it has not been given a specific date for that vote to be taken. And it is also under consideration in the House of Representatives, although it has not yet been brought to the floor for consideration for a vote. It should be noted that congressional resolutions are not the same as legislation. They simply express the sentiments of lawmakers. However, a resolution can become a law if it gets passed by both the House and the Senate and then is sent on to the President with a request that it be signed into law. Well, that's the big news today in payments. Keep coming back, and I'll keep keeping tabs and reporting about what's going on in the payment space.